So hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be doing a speed test between the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 11 Pro Max from 2019. So this iPhone 14 Pro Max comes with an A16 Bionic chip, while the iPhone 11 Pro Max comes with the Apple A13 Bionic from 2019. So as you can see, the iPhone 14 Pro Max comes with flat edges on the side, whereas iPhone 11 Pro Max has an curved and rounded corners. So actually in hand the iPhone 11 Pro Max actually feels easy to hold, and it is also light compared to the 14 Pro Max. So we'll start this speed test with an boot up. So let's start in 3, 2, 1. Let's see who boots up first. So as you can see, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is already booted up, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max is not that far behind. So guys, these phones are booted up, and let's start with the speed test. So as you can see, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is considerably larger than the iPhone 11 Pro Max. This has a 6.4-inch screen versus 6.7 on the 14 Pro Max. So we'll start with the basic applications first. I have not arranged applications on any of these phones as these applications were already arranged. So let's start with the speed test. Both the phones are connected to the same Wi-Fi networks. So we'll begin with some basic applications first. So settings, that was about the same on both the phones. And you can see the animations on both the devices. The 14 Pro Max actually has an 120Hz ProMotion display, so you can notice the difference there. Next we'll move to calendar. That was about the same on both the devices. Next up, clock. That was also the same on both the devices. Now we'll move to App Store. That was slightly faster on the 14 Pro Max. Now we'll move to Amazon. Let's do it again. Amazon. That was faster on the 14 Pro Max. Now let's move on to Maps. That was about the same on both the devices. Now let's move on to Phone Dialer. That was about the same on both the devices. Now let's move on to Safari. That was about the same on both the devices. Now we'll just search apple.com and let's hit enter. That's what about the same on both the devices. We'll click this link. That was again same on both the devices. Now we'll move on to YouTube. That was definitely faster on the 14 Pro Max. Now we'll go on to weather. That was slightly faster on the 14 Pro Max. Now we'll move on to Geekbench 6. That was about the same on both the devices. So as you can see, the 11 Pro Max actually has 4 GB of RAM, while the 14 Pro Max comes with 6 GB of RAM, as you can see. So it was about the same on both the devices. Now we'll move on to some basic games, starting with Subway Surfers. That was slightly faster on the left. And doing basic games, they are actually similar on both the devices. You will notice slight difference if you are playing high-end games such as PUBG or Call of Duty, but for these games the performance will be very similar. Now let's move on to Temple Run. That was slightly faster on the 14 Pro Max. We'll just hit cancel. As you can see, it was slightly faster on the left. Now we'll move on to Flipboard. That was about the same on both the devices. Now we'll move on to My Geo app. That was slightly faster on the left hand side. So as you can see from the speed test, there was only slight difference between the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. But the iPhone 11 Pro Max is actually getting warmer near the camera lens. So being an older processor, it does actually get warm near the power button side. But comparatively, the 14 Pro Max stays cool to the touch despite it having a case. So that is an advantage of having a latest iPhone. But the performance of the 11 Pro Max was still good compared to its age. Now we'll move on to RAM management. So the 11 Pro Max actually has 4 GB of LPDDR4X RAM, while the 14 Pro Max comes with 6 GB of LPDDR5 RAM. So this is the latest generation of the RAM. So we'll compare the RAM management of these devices now, and I will just swipe from the bottom left hand side to check for any refreshes. So as you can see, the Temple Run was actually refreshed on the 11 Pro Max. So as you can see, only one app was refreshed on the 11 Pro Max. That is very good compared to its only 4 GB of RAM. Now we'll move on to 14 Pro Max. So this was in the memory. So as you can see, all the apps were in memory on the 14 Pro Max compared to only one refresh on the 11 Pro Max. But as you open multiple applications, the RAM management will be better on the 14 Pro Max. So compared to its age, I would say the performance of 11 Pro Max is pretty good compared to 14 Pro Max. So if you are still thinking to buy the 11 Pro Max, then I would say go with it. If you get a better deal, it will support further software updates at least 2 to 3 years from now. So this was the speed test between both these devices. So guys, these are the Geekbench 6 cores of both the devices, and you can see, of course, the 14 Pro Max has a slightly higher single core score and a considerably higher multi-core score. But the iPhone 11 Pro Max is not much far behind, and it is reasonable compared to the latest Android flagships. So this was the benchmark of both these devices. And that's it from my side, guys. Do let me know how you feel in the comment sections down below, and I will meet you in the next video. Thank you.